Hey guys, my name is Chantel. Welcome back to my channel and thanks for hanging out with me today. So today we are gonna talk about Idolish7 Second Beat episode 11. So I do apologize that this is really late. I just didn't have enough time to watch the episode or to sit down and record for it. I literally just watched the episode yesterday, which was like Wednesday night. So that's why you guys are getting my thoughts a little bit later than normal. And I do apologize for that. I'm recording now this on Thursday, so hopefully I can get it up tonight. If not, this should be up by Friday. Hopefully. Anyway, enough chit chat. Let's just go ahead and talk about this week's episode of Idolish7. So let's start off from the beginning as always. So this week's episode starts off with the Idolish7 boys talking about Zero, and Mitsuki starts off with like this really nice fond memory of Zero, which ends up leading into the conversation of, I wonder if the guys that are in charge of the Zero Arena stuff know what happened to Zero. So they go ahead and directly ask this guy, I don't know his name and I'm really sorry about that, but he basically tells them it's better that you guys don't know, especially if you're fans. It's better to keep it that way. So that piques everybody's interest and they're like, what do you mean? So he explains that there was a situation that happened the day of his final concert where it looks like they're not entirely too sure, but they do know that there was like an ambulance or something like that, someone that went to the hospital that same night. So this obviously shocks everybody in the group, and the guy was just saying how, you know, the reason why it probably happened is because Zero was carrying all of the dreams, everybody's dreams, and when you carry this amount of dreams and this amount of pressure, it eventually does wear you down and break you down. So at the end of that conversation, they were like, well, it's no wonder he decided to back away and left without a trace. And they're considering that maybe Zero is the one doing the graffiti, which Mitsuki is like, there's no way, he could never do something like this. And it just leaves everyone into like this little awkward atmosphere where they're just thinking about Zero. And actually, before I go into the next little thing that happens after this, one thing I forgot to mention, I just thought about this because Nagi popped into my head. So before, like at the very beginning of this episode, when the boys are talking about Zero, and before they go and talk to this guy, they start talking about the conspiracy theories over what exactly happened to Zero, which was really interesting. Some of them are really silly, and it seems like Yamato knows all about them, which is kind of funny because he was like naming like a couple here and there. But one that, again, piqued my interest and like really caught my attention the most was when they mentioned how that the biggest one and the silliest one that they thought out of all of them was that Zero was like this foreign prince and he was basically taken back home, so he needed to quit an idol because they needed him. And when they're talking about this, Nagi has a cute little reaction, which I feel like normally I wouldn't have really thought too much about it, but then again, I'm like, okay, that like the way that they made Nagi react to this was a little sus to me. Especially when Mitsuki's like, nah, that can never happen, like as if a prince would want to be an idol, like ha ha ha. And Nagi's face was just like like kind of like, you know, like I want to say something but not really. You know, with Idolish7, they are very clever because again, it's like these little things, these moments that I'm talking about, especially like this one with Nagi, where it feels like they're hinting at something or like kind of foreshadowing something. And it's really hard to tell because I feel like with Idolish7, sometimes it can be as simple as, yeah, that there wasn't really any meaning to it, or no, there was some meaning behind it. I feel like Idolish7 is really good with these type of things, like just the tiniest little detail can mean something with Idolish7. At least that's what I see as I go on and watch the episodes on a weekly. The more I start to notice these like little cues and clues to what could possibly happen next in the future. So I'm like, okay, like there's a reason that Nagi is reacting that way. Actually I do know. Unfortunately, this is also another thing that I was definitely spoiled for. There was somebody that I followed on Twitter, still do, and they basically started reading the story of Idolish7 not too long ago. I think like about a year ago or something. I think about a year it's been since I saw this post. And they were basically putting out their thoughts as they went through the story of Idolish7, and they were being super vague, except when it came to Nagi. They were freaking out over what happened to Nagi. And I saw something I shouldn't have, and I was like, no. So I scrolled really quick because I like, again, I don't want to know too much regarding, you know, the boys' secrets and stuff. But again, I also do know bits and pieces about Nagi. Unfortunately, I don't know like the full scope and details. I just know like one thing, that Nagi is blank blank blank. If that makes any sense. So yeah, I do kind of know, but I'm giving you Idolish7 fans permission to put something in the comments and be like, hey, this is the deal with Nagi, because I am very intrigued. Besides that, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is like the scene where they're all in the car. So everybody is just thinking about what the guy was saying about Zero, and they start to kind of feel a little bit down. And I love this part with Tsumugi, because she says not to worry. She tells the boys that she will protect them at all costs no matter what. So there's nothing to worry about or fear, that she will be there for them no matter what. And I feel like that was such a nice little moment between the boys and Tsumugi, because that just kind of, I feel like this is like something that can help them ease up a little bit, and I feel like they feel a little reassured that they have someone like Tsumugi, you know, like backing them up, being there for them no matter what. And it definitely goes to show you just how much Tsumugi has a lot of faith and trust in the boys, and how much they have a lot of faith in her and trust her as well, which is really nice. It just goes to show you how their relationship is with Tsumugi, and just how well established it is at this point. It is just so nice to see. Which, I guess, speaking of Tsumugi, she does later announce that the boys will be dropping their second album when they are performing, or like around their performance for the Zero Arena stuff, I think is what she said, if I remember correctly. When they talk about the second album, that's when Tamaki asks the big question. They're like, okay, who is going to be the center though? Is it going to be Riku, or are we going to continue with Iori? So things become a little bit awkward. Iori is going to speak up, but Riku takes the initiative, and he's just like, I want to do it. I can do it. I feel a lot better now, and it's thanks to you guys, so please let me do this. And of course, Tsumugi is just beyond happy, and she's like, of course, like, go ahead. But here's the thing, you need to tell your fans like what's happening. And he's like, but I don't want to discuss about my health issues. And she's like, I totally understand that, and you know, I respect your wishes. We're gonna keep that way. But I need you to connect with your fans and reassure them and ease their worries, and let them know that there's nothing to worry about, and ease Iori's fans with this transition again. And Riku starts asking, even if it makes us seem like imperfect, and that's when Tsumugi starts to say like, what is perfect to you guys? And obviously Riku is like, well, when I think of perfect, I think of my brother Ten and Trigger. And that's when she says, but perfect doesn't need to be you guys. Your fans love you the way that you guys are, because you guys are imperfect. That's why they love you guys so much. And I feel like when artists aren't perfect, they are more relatable, especially like for me, when it comes to their songs, when they're really, you know, speaking their truth, everything that's in their heart. And when they have like anything like a live or a live stream, anything, they're talking to you from the heart. You can feel how sincere they really are. So I feel like that's what kind of like what Tsumugi is trying to say. Like, your fans need to know that you're being sincere, and, you know, just obviously don't go into too much detail, but also let them know what's happening, because they deserve to know. They've been supporting you, and, you know, they're worried too. Which leads up into their concert that they have. And when they start emceeing, Iori starts off and he's like, I have something to say, like, please sit down because it's gonna take a while, which freaks everybody out in the crowd, and they're all worried. And I love that Mitsuki like jumps in like nothing, and he's just like, don't, like, you make it sound so serious. He's like, don't worry, you guys. Like, this is just like our normal MC. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. I really love that with Mitsuki, because again, this is also something that a lot of the characters like Nagi and Yamato and like a bunch of other people have said, that Mitsuki really does change the atmosphere when he's talking and like livens things up. Like, we clearly saw that right now in this episode, where he kind of steps in for Iori, and he's just like, hey, like, you know, kind of smooth things down and ease all the fans' worries, and they're able to relax a little bit, which again really helped. And it just goes to show you how important Mitsuki really is to the group. So Iori continues to talk, and basically he's thanking his fans and everybody, and that he will basically be stepping down as the center, and we will be going back to Riku as the center. And he goes on to say how he feels about Riku, and how he really does admire him, and how much he respects him now that he knows all the kind of pressure and how hard it is to be the center. He completely admires him more than ever now, because it's not an easy job. And of course, Riku is very much touched by everything that Iori is saying, and they're going back to like how they were talking, and it's really cute to see. And you know, the fans are able to see like their little interaction and just how close they are and how much they trust each other and like admire and acknowledge each other. And Riku obviously goes back to emceeing, and he's talking to the fans, and he tells them how much he loves the fans and everybody, and he is basically saying, you know, thank you for supporting me. And he's basically like saying, you know, there were some circumstances where I couldn't be the center, and it's thanks to Iori for stepping in that I'm able to be here again. And it just got really sappy really quick, and it was so cute and like meaningful, because you can tell like Riku was definitely speaking from his heart right then and there, and telling his fan, like everybody in there, not just his fans but everybody that loves Idolish7, how much he truly appreciates every single one of them, and he apologizes for boring them and stuff. And it's just so precious and adorable. And he goes on to saying how much he loves his members as well, and it ends on a really sweet note, and it's so great. And I love that their song was like Restart, or I can't remember exactly, like Point Restart I think is what it was called. I can't remember, but yeah, it was something Restart, which was like, or Reset, something like that, right? But I feel like it was super fitting, because it feels like Idolish7 is restarting now that they have Riku back as a center, and I feel like now their bonds are a lot stronger than before, and you know, they continue to grow and learn as they go. But their happiness gets cut short when they get some graffiti on them, and it was not pretty, because the graffiti basically said the same thing as Rivale, and at the end of the little message that was there, it said Haruki the betrayer, and I was like, oh, this is not looking good. And then that's when you get like the media covering this and questioning if they're stealing Zero's songs or if they're working with Zero's old composer, which was Haruki. And it's just turned into this big old disaster where it's just one rumor and another, and it's just insane. And obviously they were super unprepared for this. Like, how could they prepare for this? This just happened out of nowhere, and it sucks, because I feel like they just got this happy little moment, and then it just goes on to turn around into something a little bit more darker, when it was something so innocent, and they didn't really think much about it, or like think it would backfire. Like, how could you? And someone out there is like against them for whatever reason, and is saying, you know, like, I don't know, like, I'm not sure what they're trying to say, but someone is out for Idolish7 and clearly for Rivale. I had this thought when I was watching everything happen. I don't know why, but for some reason my mind instantly went, because they're wondering, like, why would someone come after them? Like, what have they done? What's going on? Is it because it is Haruki's songs, technically, his composer, even though Haruki entrusted them to Nagi? Especially because they've been doing this for quite a while already, and it's like, and no one knew about Haruki until now. So it led me to believe, because again, like I said, my mind just kind of had like this oh my god moment, and I'm thinking, and again, I could be totally wrong about this, but I personally think that Kujo is behind this somehow. And I don't know why my mind instantly went towards Kujo being behind this, but I feel like he is. Maybe he's not like putting his own hands into the situation, but I feel like he probably hired somebody to do all this. And I feel like it's the one thing that makes the most sense to me, because it's like Mitsuki said, why would Zero do that? Especially when his old composer Haruki gave these songs to Nagi and entrusted him with them, and he wanted these songs to be sung and for someone to bring these songs to life, you know? So I'm like, it has to be Kujo, because he's the one that really doesn't, from what I can tell from these past few episodes, he doesn't really care about Idolish7 or Rivale. So I think he wants to take them down so that 10 has the bigger spotlight in the end. Is that crazy for me to think about it that way? I don't know. Maybe it's just me overthinking it. That was just like one of the thoughts that I had while watching all of this happen. Just my gut is telling me that Kujo has a hand behind this. I don't know why. It just smells like Kujo to me. But again, it's because he's putting all his hopes and dreams on 10 that it leads me to believe that he's probably trying to take these two groups down somehow so he can shine the brightest at the Zero Arena. Again, I could be totally wrong, but we'll find out. Which, when all of this is happening with like the reporters and everyone calling the office to know if Haruki is their composer or not, and obviously they're not gonna give the answer to that. They're trying to keep everything like tight-lipped, and that's when we have like this split little second where we focus on Nagi, and it seems like Nagi's thinking about this like really, really hard and trying to figure out what to do in this situation, I guess, or something is happening with Nagi. He's thinking about something, I'm guessing, and we do get confirmation at the end of the credits of the episode that he's not liking the situation too much, which leads into the next thing that I do want to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive into more Tamaki and Sogo. Yay! We've been diving into a lot of Tamaki and Sogo this season, and it's been kind of crazy because, as I said in my last week's episode, we kind of come to a halt or stop in their relationship where they feel lost and don't know what to do. And remember how last week I said that they should talk to somebody at least? Oh man, this is not what I wanted. At least Tamaki was being honest about his feelings, but Sogo, what are you doing, sweet boy? Why did you tell Riku this insane story? Like, oh my gosh. I wish Sogo would have just came out and told Riku everything, because Riku is like, hey, like, I saw you were feeling down, like, what's going on? And Sogo basically is like, hey, let me tell you a story. And I'm like, oh no, like, if you're gonna start off with something like this, like, then don't say anything at all, because this is just gonna make the whole situation more complicated. So it's better to be honest and tell him, you know, hey, like, this is what's going on. But I guess, again, Sogo is trying not to get people involved, I guess. He wants to deal with this himself, but Sogo, why did you have to make up this weird story? So anyways, he makes up the story between like Riku, Ten, and Iori in the story, and it's so funny because each time Riku interrupts and he's like, I thought this story was supposed to be funny, let it be more dramatic, or like something like that. It was really funny because Riku's little backhanded comments, like obviously he had no idea or didn't mean anything about it, but just Sogo's reaction was just like, oh my god. And basically by the end of it, he's like, well, what should the useless Iori do? And Riku's like, well, if it was Iori, he should tell Riku like the truth and blah, blah, blah. He should tell him the truth. Tell him what's going on in the situation. And Sogo was about to say, okay, so that means I should go and tell Tamaki, and then that's when Riku interrupts and he's like, but if it were Tamaki, I wouldn't tell him anything because Tamaki wouldn't be able to handle it. And Sogo is just like, oh crap, like, okay then. And I love how at the end of this, Iori was listening into this, which makes this whole situation even more funnier because he comes out and Mitsuki like sees him, he's like, what happened to you? And he's just like, I think the members don't really like me that much. And it's just like, oh my god, my poor Iori, like, that's not what's happening. Sogo did not go about things the right way. It's just everything happened so quick and went very, very wrong really quickly. Then we have this scene where Tamaki goes to Yamato and he asks for advice. So basically Tamaki, he was being like super honest about what's happening and how he feels to Yamato, which to me feels like he really does trust Yamato a lot. And funny enough, he does come out and say that he knew that Yamato didn't mean it when Sogo really respected him. He was like, I know you were lying to me about how he respected me and stuff. I figured it out eventually. And Yamato was like, oh shit. Like, oh no. Like, did something wrong? But he's just like, don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. And he's like, I understand why you did it. And also, I completely understand now why Sogo wouldn't trust me. And Yamato's like, no, I don't think he doesn't trust you. I think it's quite the opposite. It kind of sucks because it looks like Tamaki wants to help Sogo, but Sogo just doesn't want to let Tamaki in yet. Which, bear in mind, it's a reasonable thing to be worried about, but at the same time, Sogo needs to trust Tamaki and he needs to tell him because it's the right thing to do, because he knows how much he's been looking for his sister, how much he loves his sister, and how much he wants to be reunited with her. So I definitely think Sogo should take all the risks and tell Tamaki, because you never really know. Tamaki can be really mature when needed. I don't know. I feel like he should definitely trust Tamaki and not worry about it. But of course he's worrying about it because so many things could go wrong. And I feel like it's definitely better for him to tell him before it's too late, before Tamaki finds out from somebody else, before Tamaki finds out that he's been keeping this for a while or something. The longer he waits, the more I feel like Tamaki's gonna be more angrier about it. Which is also why Yamato tells him, you know, just give him a little bit of time, give him space. And Tamaki isn't too sure if that's really the right call to make. He is also at a loss of what to do. What should he do? Should he like tell him to please open up? Please tell me what's going on, and just be honest of how he feels with the situation and how things seem on his end, and maybe that would get Sogo to open up and be like, okay, but don't get mad, and or you know, just I wish these two would talk to each other and just be honest, especially Sogo. Like, it's a long road ahead, man. And I just hope that they can fix the situation and ends up being okay, because I just don't want Tamaki to be mad at Sogo at the end, which now leads into the after credits. Oh my gosh. So after the credits, we get this scene with Tsumugi. She goes and tells her dad, and she's like, hey, let's hold a press conference. We need to do it. Please, like, trust me on this. And her dad basically says, no, it would be a good idea, but it's also really, really bad, because the media can twist your words, and just one wrong move and they will make a whole circus out of it. And it's really true, because whatever you say to the media, and we see this all the time with celebrities and artists, just one little thing, they can take it out of context and roll with it and make it seem extremely bad to the point where they look bad and everything is just a complete mess. So that's what they want to avoid. That's what Tsumugi's dad is starting to say. He's like, we can't do that. Like, it's nice that you want to do this, but I also can't leave it in your hands when you're this new and you have no experience with press conferences and stuff like that and handling situations like this. And that's when Nagi comes in to save the day. And he comes in with, like, I think they're like legal papers, or it's like a contract, I think it was. He's like, let me do the press conference. I can do it because I've done them before for my country and I'm really good at handling situations like this, which leaves Tsumugi and Tsumugi's dad very, very confused. They're like, huh? Country? Like, what do you mean you've held press conferences like this? Again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about Nagi at the beginning of this episode, what he was reacting to when they were talking about the whole Prince situation, because I feel like, again, I connected those two dots. I was like, wait a minute, they're hinting a lot more. They're dropping like subtle hints here, like of what Nagi's background could be about. And also, like, Nagi is so serious right now. He doesn't want Haruki's name to be dragged in the mud, and, you know, he is the one who brought the songs to Idolish7, so he also feels responsible, and he's like, I should be taking responsibility and do something about this too. And that's how the episode ends. Nagi really determined to do this press conference and do whatever needs to be done. And I'm kind of scared to see how the press conference is gonna go. Even though Nagi does have a lot of practice, as he said, I like, at the same time, I can't help but be nervous, because it's like the media can take something out of context, and that's what scares me. Anyways, you guys, so that is everything that I have to say for this week's episode of Idolish7. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!